And yeah, so here we go. For Vipers, we've got Don't Hex the Water. It's 48 on trending.
On the mountain is the eternal city of Antiri, the place
very
where there
loud
are
for
no
me.
secrets. And while the citizens do not smile so much, they hardly frown either.
Oh, is this
Jewels and
auto-generated?
objects of great worth lie in the streets, for there is no theft where there are no secrets, and there are no secrets in Antiri. Long ago, during the War of Magical Technology, the city sheltered a great wizard, and in return for the city's kindness, the wizard enchanted the water of Antiri, such that one need only stare into the reflection of a puddle or wash basin and ask after a person or place one should like to see, and be shown that thing in its entirety. It's not spying. Spying is an exclusive activity, and since anyone can watch anyone, this is simply how the Antirians live. They have no word for secrecy. Life was turbulent at first, the whispered slights of the bathhouse, the swindles of the marketplace suddenly watchable for all, plus crime rings and crooked politicians could be listened in on at a moment's notice, illicit love affairs observed by anyone sufficiently voyeuristic. But the adjustment was made. Recent generations have grown up with no concept of concealment and do not seem to suffer for it. Everything is visible in the water. Even the most mundane act, the brushing of one's teeth, the brewing of one's tea, is performed with attention and flair, for anyone and everyone may be watching. There is nothing hidden. Every eye is all seeing and all seen. But Antiri's transparency is not for everyone, and for those who cannot bear such a way of life, far below, by the ocean, swaddled always in fog, is the eternal city of Tynegrad, the place where there are only secrets. The citizens don't frown so much, but they hardly smile either. Possessions are many, and doors are unlocked, since there is no desire unfulfilled in Tynegrad, and there is no theft where there is no desire unfulfilled. For it was here, long ago, the great wizard first went for shelter and was refused. And to thank the people of Tynegrad for their apathy, he returned at the conclusion of the war and enchanted the water here too. The wet fog that permeates every street and house, the snow that thaws come spring. Though while the water in Tynegrad sees all, citizens have no access to its omniscient visions. There is only one watcher. Out of the bedrooms, where glasses on nightstands listen of those mumbled untold secrets the Tynegradians admit in their sleep. Down the cobbled stones, where the puddles watch of land disputes and unrequited love. To the harbour, where the ocean silently records of overpriced fish and drunken bar brawls. Out into the bay, where there resides a great kraken who watches. The kraken never sleeps, never falters, its mind unjudging as a seismograph. And the kraken is very hungry, and its favourite meal is secrets, as delivered by the water to its unblinking eyes, the secrets of Tynegrad, each impulse and desire of each citizen, such that they may be met if favourable to the market, or suppressed if not, such that at the slightest hint of eccentricity, citizens may be placed under heightened surveillance, such that none need ever fear or want. And in return for this miracle of constant safety and satisfaction, all the Kraken requires is a little knowledge, and all it wants to know is everything. Give me your tired thoughts, your poor decisions, your huddled missives yearning to be free. Who have you been going to bed with? Who would you like to go to bed with? Thinking of starting a family? Thinking of cutting off your family? Preferred brand of breakfast cereal? Least favourite season? What does home mean to you? And if the miracle should falter for a second, and a citizen might catch sight of a great hungry eye peering from the water, and cry out, "These are secrets, and my secrets are all I have," the Kraken only replies, "You ungrateful little insect, for what pretty things I have sold you, what peacetimes I have delivered you, what love I have shown you, what is privacy for? How do we resist the increasingly aggressive attempts to remove it from us? And is this video sponsored by an easy-to-use and reliable VPN? Fuck no, it is not. If you don't live alone but get the chance to sometime, I would recommend it, because you can constantly eat junk food without shame, become entirely nocturnal, and discover the truth.
So yeah, a little shift. We went from fantasy to online advertisement. Yeah. I was like, all right, sponsored by NordVPN. Good to know.
True meaning of independent living.
Oh yeah, where's your toilet regime now, Mum?
But living alone is a pretty recent phenomenon. Just sleeping alone is a pretty recent phenomenon, even for the historically rich. Privacy is an invention. We made that shit up. But how did we get here? Well, for the first few 100,000 years of our time.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know what this is. If I had to guess, I'd say this is an AI-generated story that may have an AI generated video selected. Maybe not. Maybe they just made the videos for it. I don't know, but it looks like they may have even used a video mashup thing to do that too. It's fun, but yeah. But you can see that it didn't really understand the continuity of the story. It seems like right here, it just broke into a different sort of plot.
Time on this watery spaceship, it is unlikely there were many loners. For hunter-gatherers, going it alone probably meant death, because strength in numbers was about the only trick that kept us alive. We were social by necessity, and we didn't do walls yet, so other than the confines of your own mind, how could you have privacy in that social configuration? What was the mostest game-changing human invention? Fire, the transistor, all pretty rad, yes? But the wall is going to be up there in the top 5 at least. We've been doing walls for about 23,000 years now, the oldest one we found being in Greece. Of course it's Greece, it's always Greece. And not only do walls signify property, and property is a pretty weird idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that line right there. Of course it's Greece, it's always Greece. There's no reason for that unless they grabbed it from one of these things from Wikipedia where everything always comes back to philosophy. It's kind of funny that that's what they said, but there's no reason for it to always be Greece.
If you've never heard of it before, first person to get the land gets the land forever. Why? But it also means security, means castles, means established power structures, and it's only so long before walls start to mean privacy. And that was more or less codified, for the first time we know of, by the Greeks, because it's always the Greeks, isn't it? And the distinction between the polis and the oikos. The polis being public life, politics, shit you did outside really, and the oikos, your house, your family life, shit you did inside really. But even then, in most Greek tragedies, the only thing worse than getting executed was being alone, being exiled. Still, our ancestors understood privacy of the mind just fine, as in secrets. The Chinese managed to keep the particulars of silk production a secret for over 1,000 years by making you dead if you blab to anyone. Then there was Greek fire, because it's always the fucking Greeks, isn't it? A flammable slime used by the Byzantines during battle. Yeah, that's right, a 7th century flamethrower. And the secret of its composition was so well kept, we still don't really know what the hell it was today. Also, the legend goes that when Genghis Khan died, his funeral escort kept his burial site a secret by murdering anyone they passed on the way there.
I mean, apparently someone tested the napalm recipe from Fight Club, and it was very close to being right. Apparently, I think it was the Mythbusters. It was just the ratios were just a little off, but you can make napalm out of gasoline and orange juice concentrate. So
heavy-handed,
maybe they just had orange juice concentrate back in the day.
For execution, literally. I long to die. For the next ages, us Europeans at least did pretty much everything under the gaze of someone else while at home, eating, weeping and sleeping. It's how we built our houses. It wasn't until the 17th century that some genius thought to invent an entire room for the bed. The bedroom, if you will. But beds themselves were crazy expensive. Most homes could only afford a single bed, shared by family and guests, which meant not only did you get to witness your nearest and dearest sleeping, but all the other activities that might occur in a bedroom. And while there wasn't really a concept of medieval privacy either, there were ways to obtain a little alone time, like pissing off the church and getting excommunicated. Big fun. Or cutting off heads for a living. Working as an executioner was so shameful you wouldn't be invited into others' homes, couldn't enter churches, and had to live on the fringes of town. If privacy is the right to be let alone, then along with monks, executioners were arguably kind of the pioneers of something beginning to sound like modern privacy. But it would take a while yet. In the early 1900s, Abigail Roberson one day noticed a photo of herself on a poster advertising flour. She didn't remember endorsing any flour, so she sued the company in question for using her likeness without her permission. She won the case. However, the defendants...
There was a model of a hipster that some hipster was like, "You stole my stuff and you're treating us like we're all generic." And then it turns out that it was just someone else that looked like the hipster, and they mistook themselves for the other person. And so their argument that the company was using that person's image as a generic hipster actually was their own fault. They were a generic hipster, and the company had not ripped off their photo.
Appealed, claiming they hadn't taken anything of worth from her, and they won the appeal. The chief judge writing, "Actually, she should be touched," as the ad was, quote, "a compliment to her beauty. Aha."
Yeah, and then we get good old-fashioned misogyny. Yay!
But a pleasant surprise, the public was pissed at the ruling, maximum pissed, resulting not too long after in the first instance of legislation forbidding using one's likeness without their permission. The beginning of modern privacy, really. Ironically, the chief judge we just mentioned, who ruled against her and said she should be stoked because she was pretty and shut up, would run for president in a few years, and after getting snapped constantly by photographers, waxed at great length about how it was an invasion of his privacy. Abigail Roberson reminded him in a letter in the New York Times, "But you said there is no right to privacy. Not so fun when it's being done to you, eh? What a twat." And in just a few decades, Jesus Cristo, things are about to get weirder. Because by now, it's the 1960s. Computers are rather massive, trousers are rather silly, and the Cold War is heating up. The US Department of Defense is interested in distributing information across computers in case one link in the chain, let's say, breaks down a bit. Enter ARPANET, the first packet switch network and grandfather of the modern internet. And the first message ever sent over ARPANET from UCLA to Stanford Research Institute was supposed to be login. However, the system fell over after 2 letters, meaning the internet's first message to the world was low. As in, lo and behold, I have arrived, you fucks. First words don't get better than that. By 1971, the first email has been sent. By 1973, the first transatlantic connection is made. Then by 1978, Robert Kahn and Vint Cerf have designed TCP/IP, or Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. And if the internet talks in the language, this is it. By the 90s, Tim Berners-Lee has kindly invented the World Wide Web, the retrieval of information architecture the modern net is built on top of, making possible hypertext, hyperlinks, and the first website. You can still visit it today. And naturally comes the first webcam. It monitors a coffee machine at Cambridge University for some reason.
Oh, it was a good fucking reason. The author wanted to, the person who made the fucking webcam wanted to know when they needed to make more coffee. Great fucking reason for a goddamn hacker.
1993, the first graphical web browser, Mosaic, and then the Moolah. Oh, the Moolah. 1994, and Amazon.com makes its first sales. One of them notably to Bulgaria for some books paid for in cash, which is sent over hidden inside a floppy disk so the customs inspectors won't steal it. Clever as ever. Običante, Bulgaria. Then enter me and perhaps you. 90s internet was pretty weird. A patchwork amalgamation of misfiring search engines, god-awful site design, and if someone had the audacity to phone your house, all they got was the sound of the modem. It was fucking great. But stranger, while most technologists have been expecting a robotics revolution for the end of the century, what we got instead was a communications revolution. Clearly preferable since, yeah, the internet can't fetch your tea, but more importantly, you can't watch pornography on a robot. And really, this is just one idiot's biased nostalgia for a simpler time. But not a few decades ago, the hope for what the internet could do was limitless. Most societal issues surely stemmed from a lack of information, and with all human knowledge at our fingertips, we would all eventually come to the same objective conclusions, emerge from
Hey, we finally got to Plato's cave. Nice. Back to the Greeks. I wonder if they're going to flip back right now.
division and ignorance, and draw together in peace as a unified digital family. And that went so-so. Oh yeah, Utopia must be just over the hill now, mate. I can almost see it. Oh no, that's just my dad's OnlyFans account. Hey dad, what a brave new world we've built. Somehow Brave New World and 1984 at the exact same time. We were promised the end of history. We were promised ultimate truth. We're supposed to be solving world hunger and building interstellar starships. What is Chungus? I do not understand. What have we done to ourselves? We've broken epistemology itself, sacrificed truth in favor of mediated hyper-reality. And for what? For what? What the fuck is Chungus?
It's big.
Sorry, we were supposed to be talking about privacy, weren't we? Well, we're kind of boned right now, and to talk about that, we'll need a patronizingly simple history of privacy, which we've sort of just done, and some kind of beat, preferably a fat one. Yeah, that'll do. Hey, this is the panopticon. It's a prison design. A guard tower sits at the center so the guard can see all the inmates in a helpful 360 panorama. The twist is that the prisoners can't see into the tower and so never know when they're being watched, so they may as well assume they're always being watched. The constant implication of surveillance. And what relevance could this have as a modern metaphor? We already know that governments are snooping on our digital lives with impunity. But it's not just states playing that game. We're now knee-deep in a technological moment the thinker Shoshana Zuboff calls surveillance capitalism. Or rather, turning the internet into a data mill for no fun and lots of profit. And it has the potential not just to corrupt the future of the internet, but remove any possibility of digital privacy ever.
Shoshana, like I love Shoshana Mill for the surveillance capitalism thing. I haven't read her book, but I did listen to an hour-long interview with her about it. She does seem to know what the fuck she's doing. It's very smart.
Ever again. In the early 2000s, the dot-com bubble burst. This was a problem for Silicon Valley because no one quite knew how to monetize the internet yet, and that 17th personal yacht ain't just gonna buy itself. Google was clever. They noticed that courtesy of all the searches they were providing, they were sat on a massive buffet of data from and about their users. Lots of that data could be used to optimize Google itself, but a huge amount was left over and incidental, which we may as well call behavioral surplus. This was simple stuff at first, like noticing if a user makes a lot of typos, maybe that means they're in a hurry, or if they're particularly diligent about apostrophes, maybe they're all bookish or whatever. But in a stroke of Walter White levels of cunning, Google realized they could use this leftover information to generate predictive patterns about a user's moods and desires, and create
Alright, this is a bad ripoff of Shoshana Zuboff. So anyone who's interested in like actual surveillance capitalism, don't believe this fucking video, because this is like a bad AI mashup of it, but like there's like good shit there.
absurdly well-targeted advertising. And great googly moogly, it worked. It made them rich beyond all imagining. And the best part is, it's free. Users gave them their secrets for free in searches. Now, at this point, no one is surprised that if, in a moment of 3:30 AM whiskey-induced curiosity, one searches Willy Bigger How, you will be bombarded for the next 15 years with adverts for questionable tonics and small weights on long strings. Kinda weird, kinda annoying, but it's so much more sinister than that. Because as Google branched out into media and email and navigation, the data points for behavioral surplus for its users' secrets grew and grew. The inner lives of Google's users became its primary resource, a fully automated data mill extracting highly specific details of a user's psychology and turning that into big bucks via advertising. And of course, the more data you collect about users, as in the more behavioral surplus you extract, the more behavioral correlations you can find, and the more efficient the game gets. If I know that you're trying to sell a wedding ring and hire a divorce lawyer, then I also know you're probably at that point in your life when some 95% vodka made from deck chairs could sound appealing. Just been for a run? Unrelatedly, check out these amazing shoes. Contemplating turning your life around? Would some deck chair vodka help? And other companies soon got in on behavioral surplus too, because if you throw health trackers and digital thermostats and smart cars into the mix, all of them collecting buckets of personal data, it's possible to build an even more accurate model of your desires, or just sell that information to third parties. One's commute route and heart rate and sleep habits, all helpfully recorded and transmitted by the one object that will probably stay no more than a foot away from our bodies for the rest of our lives. Data one thought was one's own, data that are being sold on for staggering amounts of money, to the point that it is now an economy in itself. Brokers whose only job is to sell an entire profile of you, what you eat, what conditions you suffer from, voting habits, sexual orientation, your secrets. Your secrets! These obligate fucking carnivores. As Shoshana Zuboff puts it, you take something from someone without their knowledge, claim you own it, and then use it to become unprecedentedly wealthy. Or, you know, theft. Yeah, but is it really theft if it doesn't impact us on a day-to-day level? Yes. Yes. Yes! There's a fun adage that if the product is free, then you're the product. But here it's more like you're the raw material, and there's no such thing as too much data to those who want it. Marital status, level of education, feelings regarding a recent game update, all of it is being fed into the system decoding the black box of human desire itself, which is being cross-referenced against ever more honed personality models, not just to advertise, but to scare and seduce in advance, to make that advertising even more effective. B.F. Skinner shit. Do you know what this is, son? This is the panopticon, constantly implied surveillance. And even better, surveillance is now being framed as just how things are on the internet, just another mosquito on the digital beach. It's fine all of the time. And what else is in the teachers of peaches and privacy breaches? Well, this is already turning into an informational hostage situation. Digital thermostats that will stop updating their software if you refuse to give the parent company your usage data, apps that conveniently forget to mention by using them in the first place you've tacitly agreed to pass on your blood sugar level or details of a menstrual cycle. How the fuck did we get here? It isn't that different to Abigail Roberson's situation 100 years ago. The flower company took her physical likeness for profit. Behavioral surplus is the harvesting and commodification of our digital likenesses, our data, our secrets for profit. And if one's response is, well, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Okay, sounds great, but upon uttering that, I hope you'll allow your bathroom door to be removed and to have live streaming thermal cameras installed in whichever room of the house you undertake the majority of your sexy times. Because nothing to hide, nothing to fear, right? Privacy isn't about having somewhere to do drug deals. It's a basic tenet of modern human living. It is the right to be let alone, and we've only just codified it, and we may already be about to lose it. If companies can infer that we're bereaved, or pregnant, or introverted, or just going through one of the many thousands of life crises humans enjoy during their time as sentient meat, well, simultaneously, we know basically nothing about how these companies are collecting and using our data. That is an egregious asymmetry. A full-wave rectified data extraction panopticon with the sole purpose of commodifying our psychology, of commodifying our secrets. Now, one obvious solution to this is the restating of one's data as one's personal property. The problem with that is that personal property can be sold, can become a commodity, and your privacy and your data are no more a commodity than your right to free association or oxygen. Plus, behavioral surplus isn't just about an individual's data, it's about the data of groups and demographics, and things that can't be personally owned but are terribly useful as data points. But whatever the solution, if we want to steer history away from this waterfall, it's going to take lots of getting pissed off. And if we don't do something about this, constantly harvesting more and more behavioral surplus to keep the great data mill going will just be what the internet is, because that's how the next generations will grow up with it. Because the model is already a massive part of the digital economy, later it will be the predominant model, and later will be too late. We get to decide now whether this was just a historical blip like the robber barons of the Gilded Age, or the shape of things to come, effectively killing privacy forever. The big brother of surveillance has a little brother called surveillance. Rather than being surveilled from the top down, citizens watch from the bottom up. Dashboard cameras, for example, rebalancing the symmetry of secrets by watching the watchers. And maybe the best fictional extreme of this ever written is a sci-fi novel called The Light of Other Days. And I'm going to spoil it for you now, since clearly you have nowhere better to be, and secondly because fuck you. Sometime in the nearish future, a company cracks wormholes. Only the wormholes are too small to send anything through, too small to see even, but you can peek inside. So you can open a wormhole anywhere on the planet and spy on anyone on the planet without them knowing. And of course, one of the main uses immediately becomes surveilling those more powerful, watching the back rooms of governments and corporations, which makes corruption very difficult. Then things get rather strange when some genius realizes if you put a time delay on the thing, you can see back into the past, anytime, anywhere. You can't influence the past because the plot says so, but you can watch anything that ever happened. Things do not go well. Mass outcry, suicides, every terrible thing you've ever said is now immediately available in 4K. People watch their own conceptions. It gets weird. But the next generations to grow up are a bit more relaxed about it all, because the wormhole technology is everywhere. They dress functionally and for fashion rather than modesty, because why cover anything everyone has seen already? They have no concept of personal privacy, but as a consolation, they also have no concept of being surveilled by powerful eyes unseen, because the watchers can always be watched. They've replaced the panopticon with many panopticons, 8 billion of them. Everyone is a watcher. The story ends with finding out human life was seeded by sentient insectoids, bit left field, but ultimately the wormholes become a very strange way of rebalancing the asymmetry of secrets by abolishing all secrets. And it isn't that much of a stretch to imagine we might face a similar conundrum sometime soon. The smallest camera ever made weighs a gram and is about the size of a grain of sand. The resolution isn't great, 200 by 200 pixels, but that's enough to do some decent spying, and it's not like the resolution won't get better. And it's not like this won't soon extend to drones, perhaps the size of gnats with full audio and video capture, and it's not like they won't be mass manufactured and purchasable. Combine that with ever-increasing data storage, combine that with whatever brain-machine interfaces the next generations will be messing around with, it's not hard to imagine we might build a different kind of panopticon, one in which it's taken for granted that you're probably being watched, that everything you've ever said and done has been recorded and can be accessed by anyone at any time, and that you can do the same at any time to everyone you know, a participatory panopticon. Now, that sounds horrible, obviously, like one long episode of Bling Empire. There would be no escape from every stupid slip of the tongue 20 years ago, potentially from every invasive thought. But the benefit, of course, is that unless the powerful had invisibility cloaks or lived in Faraday cages, they would have to play the game too. No one would be exempt from the participatory panopticon.
I mean, this is fair. I mean, nowadays it's one of those great things where the kid that was tracking Elon Musk's private jet, Elon Musk tried to get him to stop it. Like, the kid wouldn't do it. And so it was one of the few things that, like, it was kind of great recently, was when all the private jet usage got exposed on Twitter, and, like, people, it embarrassed all the rich people for, like, burning through all the fuel. Like, it was great.
It's a very strange kind of fair, but a lot more fair than the current mill of asymmetrical secrets we live in at the moment. I don't know, man, the road to hell is paved with good inventions. When it comes to panopticons, none is better than one, but one is a lot worse than 8 billion. If technology is going to semi-break privacy anyway, maybe better that it be on our own terms. 500 years ago, there was no way Gutenberg could have known just how game-changing his printing press would be. Likewise,
Chinese
there's no way we
printing
can even
press
guess
earlier.
at what the internet's great-great-grandchild will look like 500 years from now. Digital telepathy, disembodied human consciousness itself, who knows? But as all inventions do, it will bear the hallmarks of whatever bad habits its parents taught it when it was little. And we are teaching it some very, very bad habits. And whatever it grows up into, it will be us who shaped that, who hopefully taught it that knowledge is power, but spying from ivory towers is rude, which means it'll also be us who determine the digital landscape our descendants grow up in, and whether or not that landscape is an equitable meadow or a digitized Victorian mill. Whether enchanted water flows unobstructed through the city. Listening to us, yes, but impartially, and replying when asked to convey not only visions of other possible cities and other possible worlds, but showing ourselves to ourselves. Whether that water runs unobstructed through the streets, bringing edification and information, reporting of the distant hopeful and fabulous strange. Whether that water flows down to the estuary and sustains those towering, assiduous trees of knowledge we grow over our heads. One great forest network across the refulgent world, talking in all languages of all things for all time, such that if interstellar visitors arrived 100 years from now and looked down upon the world and the enchanted water and the forest we have built, that the forest might be so wise and mighty they'd mistake the forest for the true steward of the planet. And in many ways, considering how difficult it was to build and how much it gave us in return for building it, it very well might be. Or whether instead the water is dammed and the estuary drained and wet fog is all that remains of it. Fog that waits with insidious ubiquity in every spot of the house and mind one might once have attempted to go and be alone in. Whether that fog is engineered to no longer speak to us of distant places or possible futures, but only forever listens with a single omnipresent ear to our most private hopes and phobias. Whether the operation becomes so efficient that of a dim evening one can step outside into the grey twilight and look out to the roads which one knows beneath stream all of one's secrets, to look skyward and know one's secrets are being dispatched to ingenious silver birds overhead, whereupon they are blown like pollen across the entire globe, and finally received and consolidated into perfectly ordered datasets in far-flung and enormous halls, where there resides a great kraken. A kraken who does not sleep, who does not tire, and is never full. A kraken who listens of all the dreams and secrets of all those who live in the fog, and lovingly utilizes those dreams and secrets for the production of ever more opulent trinkets and wares. A kraken so saturated in secrets that it considers the currents of the human heart and mind no less manipulable than the diverting of a stream or tilling of a field. A kraken that knows full well if enchanted water only listens, then that isn't an enchantment. That's a curse. That is a fucking hex. Oh yeah, let's hex the water. That's a great idea. The total confiscation of privacy via corporate surveillance. The usurping of human psychology via operant conditioning. The great end of history. Purchased and delivered at the soonest convenience. Whatever you want. Whatever you didn't even know you wanted. The only price being standing epistemically naked before digital gods who remain forever shrouded. And the most diabolical part of it all, that we built a cage for ourselves, not even from some Orwellian will to control, not even from some stupid fear of the other, or terror in face of our own natures, but simply to make a buck. To make a buck! Normally, I would love to play you out with some Carl Sagan rip-off rant about how humans are great and wow, space is really big, etc. But we could screw ourselves over so royally with this stuff, to the point that the recovery of human dignity becomes impossible, that it might be best not to end this one with any false optimism. So, hope you're doing tip-top. Bye-bye.
Well, I mean, that's how I have to end everything. Boy. Alright, so that was good fun. If I had to guess, I don't want to do anything like that. I'd say this is a sort of a curated AI based on the story about this surveillance capitalism. Yeah, I'd feel better if this was a NordVPN sponsor. That's funny. But yeah, this is basically a ripoff of Shoshana Zuboff and what she was saying on the surveillance capitalism. Basically, although a lot of this was kind of nonsensical because it sounded like it was filtered through an AI, you know, they did actually have a narrative in the end that went from like the mystical story to the actual philosophy and then back to showing the story. Okay, so it wasn't, he just was fucking around. Okay, that's fine too. But like it was, the narrative had to have been controlled because it was a little too wrapped up in the end. The AI couldn't have, I don't know if we've got AIs that can actually pull things together in this way, like too many things all at once. So that's what he did. So he just a guy with a creative a creative writer wanted to get into the surveillance capitalism and did it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% on board with the Shoshana Zuboff surveillance capitalism criticisms. So it's like I'd love to have read her book and get into that stuff. Of course, things are moving so fast nowadays that it's probably already out of date. It's only from a few years ago. Just so you know, like this is like clearly I don't actually live in this room. Everyone always laughs at the mess behind me. My computer does not have a webcam on it. Like, I just don't have one. I don't like the idea of all my data being available. Like, I run Linux. I do not do the Microsoft telemetry thing. That wasn't the reason I started using Linux, but I'm very happy I don't. I'm very happy I don't do the Microsoft telemetry thing. You can see this is the Brave browser. I don't know if you can see this is the Brave browser. I use Firefox mostly. For all my other stuff, I avoid Chrome because I don't need Google knowing every fucking website I go to. Vipers, I mean, most of the time people follow the economics. That's, I think, just a statistical fact. But I mean, I'd have to push you on what exactly do you mean that, like, because clearly the theory of like utilitarianism is not a function of economics. It's the function of the deciding what is the most benefit, or again for deontology is you know, how to follow the categorical imperative, or virtue ethics is deciding what counts as a virtue, or if you do like Confucianism, like what's the proper way to, you know, have li, which is a sense of like etiquette and appropriate action, which is sort of a virtue ethic-y similar thing. But I mean, what do you mean by morality simply a function of economics? Like, what do you know and what would you do if you knew more given surveillance capitalism? For example, the Gen Z Puritanism in the beginning stages of panopticon multiplex. Yeah, I mean, that does seem like it is a function of economics, but I mean, it's protecting themselves. Everything being on the permanent record, yeah, it's the old joke of, you know, oh, like everyone will see this stuff, and so you have to act good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they are a bit of a nervous bunch because of everything. A lot more is being recorded nowadays. It takes more time to realize that even though everything is recorded, you can't actually process everything. So the idea that anyone cares to look is like, you can do whatever the hell you want because no one's going to end up actually watching the video, even if the video exists. But like, that takes more reflection to realize that once there's a ton of data, then it's the same as having no data because it's overwhelming. And when you're nervous about that stuff, it doesn't help you to realize that no one's going to go back and do it because no one can look, and you can get away with stuff just the same. But yeah, that is part of, like, I feel bad for the Gen Z that don't have the reflective realization that, like, you can get away with more. You just flood what you have to do is you have to flood the data set. That is the panopticon effect. Yes. It doesn't matter if the guard is watching. We have to assume that they are. No, you just have to assume that they don't have enough time to look at anything you're doing in detail. That is the yeah, I agree that's the panopticon effect. But I feel bad for the Gen Z because everyone's got a fear that they're being watched. It's like, yeah, but like, there's still ways around it. This is part of my problem with contemporary society is that, everyone's looking on the technological issues, but they don't realize there's ways to fight back. We can flood the system with like nonsense data or useless data, and that makes the processing to find the actual important data points much harder to do. And so once you've got so much data, you have to process it all, and that gets harder and harder over time. And so it's like, there's things that will actually happen that will resist the panopticon, but we're not going to be able to see it until it actually happens. I remember there was a guy who actually started filming everything he did. And what happened was, like, at first he was worried about things getting, revealed. But then what happens, what I'm saying right now, is that he realized there was so much video that no one wants to spend their entire life watching the video of him. You don't think so? I wouldn't have so much faith in technology that you think this is just the way it's going to go. There will be things to resist it. I don't know if they're going to work. I mean, you could be right about that. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I agree that this is the way we're currently headed. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, are we going to get angry and change the laws? Do you actually think changing the laws is going to affect the companies at this point? Or are they going to be able to skirt, whatever laws that any one country puts up? Yeah, but that's fair. That, like, maybe there'll be a way to filter it. Maybe. They're gonna be able to do better and better jobs, but they're gonna have more and more data also, and so it's an arms race between the amount of data being collected and what's actually a good signal in the fuck is this? I've never seen this before. Sorry, I just got a warning thing. But yeah, I don't know about actively because it's just gonna happen anyway. Like, we're creating so much data nowadays that it's going to be a problem for processing it. Now, of course, any active, like someone who wants to get the data off you, like Google wants to sell advertising, then they're going to be able to do it. But again, what are they selling you the advertising for? Or if they're like the U.S. government or or any other government for that matter, and they want to say like, hey, look, are you someone actively working against the government? If they have time and effort to focus on you, then yes, they're going to do it. Yeah, and this is what I was saying, but like, do you think the country is going to matter? The laws, they won't matter, and I agree with you. They won't matter. That's why we're seeing such inequalities these days. Capitalism, global, but democracy remains national and parochial in comparison. Yeah, and so this is the problem. How do we actually get around these multinational corporations that do not have to follow any particular laws? Now, granted, the like blocks, like the European Union, the United States, we try to, do stuff that can force the companies to act in certain ways. We've basically failed, as far as I'm concerned, on the most part of it. There's no reason to think that we're gonna succeed at using our current methods. Like, as you say, laws don't matter because there's easy enough for the tech to skirt the laws. I mean, just move offshore. It's very easy, and then you have a website. And what are they going to do? Block the internet at this point? Now, are we going to balkanize the internet? That's a good question. So that certain people have access to certain sites and other people won't, and then you'll have again walled gardens and different things. So it'll go back to the way it was back in AOL. So like people on AOL were seeing one thing, other people were seeing other things. Like the people in the U.S. will see one internet, and the people in China will see a different internet. And the people in Russia will see a different internet. And then everyone will have a slightly different world, and, that's probably coming. Yeah, exactly. Zuck is having everyone on Facebook is the thing. You see capitalism and democracy as playing chess. Nations quarrel over how to move their pieces while capitalism has a single invisible hand moving it in its interest. I mean, I think that's simplistic about the capitalism. I mean, you've just got these big corporations that are doing shit. Those are the people with the money. The democracy is going to be inherently slower, which is troubling, but, I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, it's going to be slower, but potentially more powerful. The companies are, as soon as one person does one thing, everyone's going to copycat it. And so in some sense, you always are having to play, who's got the next big innovation. And you see the corporations, they have trouble, like, actually innovating. I mean, I haven't seen a good new product from Google in years. I haven't seen a good new product from Facebook in years. Same with a bunch of the other stuff. It just keeps, they're iterating, but I haven't seen anything big in a while. The biggest new thing in the last few years, of course, is the blockchain, Bitcoin sort of stuff. And that came out of left field by probably some guy who died years ago and is gone. So it's like, what exactly is going to happen? I don't know, but, like, this is the thing. Like, you can use the internet, and what happens is internet happens in ways that you don't expect. And that was kind of what happened with Bitcoin and that sort of tech. None of the big corporations had any hand in that, it looks like. I mean, the two theories I heard, the theory I heard back in the day, there were two options. Either it was a NSA Black Ops job to destabilize the Chinese currency, or it legitimately was the guy who did it all by himself. Well, I agree. Like, I don't know about the history of the blockchain, but, like, yeah, the fact that, like, someone pulled it off now on the internet is impressive. Yeah, the applications we've had for it are shit. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I'm actually trying to think of stuff myself. Like, could it actually be put to a better use? But like, this is what I mean. Like, the idea that, like, we know the future of, like, these ideas, we don't know much. Different nations at different stages in development have different needs, while capitalism has only one goal: maximizing profit, no matter how many actors in it. Yeah, but that's not specific to, like, what's actually happening. I mean, all the people with money have different goals too. They want to make more money, but how they go about it, it's all different. And so maximizing profits is not specific enough to tell me exactly what's going to happen either. So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I'm just like, but if you want to get specific about things, then you're going to have to talk about what do the specific people who have control of capital want to do. And then you can discuss what they want to do, but it's the same thing as the different nations, for that matter, who have capital funds too, and are quite often using those capital funds to do various things, very similarly to big corporations. So, yeah. I like this video. I mean, it's good. I don't know exactly who it's directed at. It says it's number 48 on trending here, so that means a lot of people are watching it right now. It's got 345,000 views. Almost 346,000 views as of right now. It's like, okay, cool. People are watching it on the internet. Are these all the people who are interested in the problems of the capitalism and future tech and the way surveillance capitalism is affecting us? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's who's going to be watching this to the end. Yeah. And this was a quote: yeah, "You can't watch pornography from a robot." Again, what people thought where the tech was going to go in the past is not where it went. Now, do we have to make laws and try to fight against this? Yes, but like, how exactly is that going to look? I don't know. And is it going to be sort of like this universal panopticon? Is that a solution? I doubt it. Vipers, you've been subscribed to this guy for a while. His videos are hit and miss, sometimes insightful, sometimes gibberish, but always entertaining. Well, see, that's fun. That's good. I mean, it seems like this one hit because of the trending and the view count. But will this, I like the idea that they're, pushing the surveillance capitalism and the Shoshana Zuboff because she's good. Yeah, I mean, how much good is this gonna do? Well, hopefully it will get some more people who to realize the issues going forward. How do we fight it? I mean, this does not have any. It's interesting what you were saying about, like, if we have a million people like all looking at the same time, then it kind of deflates the purpose of anyone like using it for like nefarious purposes, because anyone can always check up on anyone doing any nefarious stuff. But that's always going to be the case. There's going to be some people have the power and some people don't, and the people who can control the tech are going to have more power in the future than the people who don't. And so, like, that's part of the issues going forward, is people who control the technology are going to be more powerful. And that's why I kind of I refer to a lot of the stuff happening now as a techno-fascism, where like the people like Google and stuff, they're basically techno-fascists. They think they control the technology and therefore deserve to be in control, which is just really, really terrible in my opinion, because again, the tech people don't necessarily have any good intentions or anything. They don't know what should be doing with it, as you said, are just capitalists and they're trying to make more money, which is the old quote is, you can't eat money. Yeah, I mean, when all the fish are dead, you can't eat money. So it's like, is that really who we want in charge? People who are more interested in tech than life. So, yeah. Okay. Viper says, hey, but you can eat the poor. Yeah, eat the babies. Modest proposal. Infrastructure decentralization is key, not just information, but energy generation, water collection and purification, localized automated farming. Weaning ourselves off the dependency of the system is the only way we can fight back against without either protectionism or a new world order to reign in the multinational with laws. Yeah, I mean, the decentralization is literally like part of like the blockchain drumbeat. Like they're like, oh, decentralize all the things, zero trust systems, so you don't actually have to worry about, the centralized thing getting all your data. Of course, the blockchain is public, and so that is also making everything public, and that means all your actions are public too. And so then again, there are privacy-focused blockchains out there. So you can look at that, and then maybe you need a privacy-focused blockchain to actually be doing all this stuff. But that's, getting more complicated already. So yeah, I mean, how do we actually do the decentralized infrastructure? Not so easy to do. Again, people who have access to this sort of technology and know how to do that are a bit more, there's a sophistication there. And then do you just create a new inequality of the people who can access and use the infrastructure decentralization to their benefit, as opposed to those who cannot? I mean, I got parents. I got a mom who like is only so good at the tech. It's gonna keep going that way. All be done out of a makerspace? I mean, how? I mean, a makerspace, what does it have? Like some computers, like a 3D printer, laser scanner or something? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the level of infrastructure actually need. Like, I know data centers are pretty small. No, I mean pretty large. You need lots of data centers to do lots of shit. I don't quite WikiHouse. Farm bot. All right, so let's see what this wiki has. Okay, so we're building stuff. Okay, so yeah, this is decent. This is helping build good new buildings out of things. Farm bot. Okay, and so yeah, and so you're able to like do this, but yeah, but dude, being able to scale this sort of thing up takes a huge amount of work. I mean, you could make a farm bot in one or two places, but to like, do industrial level farming, that's a big difference than, building a house, building a farm bot. Like, it's a big deal. So, yeah, like, I think you got a problem of scale right here. Like, you can do it, you can do it on this, you've done the calculations. How many farm bots do we need to like run all of agriculture in the United States? Like seriously. And like so it works, and then you have people that support the systems. I mean, I don't doubt that you've done work on this, but like these things are huge amounts of like training, manufacturing, all these things, the support systems. So it's like, yeah, we're going to have to go in that direction in some sense, but like it ain't easy to get people to do anything like this. Like in house building. I mean, people, again, yeah. 25 meters squared per person to provide the daily calories required. Yeah. But like, so you're going to change all of agriculture to how? Like, sure, we can feed all the people at the moment, and we've got a problem that capitalism does not care about feeding all the people. It cares more about making money than feeding all the people, and therefore we don't feed all the money, and a lot of food gets thrown out. So, I mean, we could just, do the anti-capitalism thing and be like, well, we have to change capitalism. But if you're saying we're just going to do the technology, then are we just trading one master for another, as opposed to the people who are just, money grubbers, to the people who control the technology? Now, if you want to distribute the technology, then all the people have to know how to use the technology, which again sets up another thing. Who knows how to use this stuff? People, like a lot of the people are just not tech oriented, and they're just going to have to let the people who can control the technology, do it. But then you're just giving all the power to the people who can control the technology, which does not seem to be a good solution. Okay, so yeah, minimum control, and you can opt out. But yeah, that's not solving my problem of who gets to run the bots. Like who's running who's at the control of the bots and distributing the food. That seems like a social problem still. Like you do not get to reorganize all of society easily. Okay, so we're gonna all of a sudden reorganize all of society. That's unlikely to happen. Yeah, that's I'd love to be able to reorganize society so that everything all of a sudden works. I don't think that's feasible anytime soon. I mean, and again, it's not like it's any worse than any of the other solutions. I don't actually think this is like a bad idea, but I just don't know if it's a good one compared to any of the other ones. Like you've got the people who are like, capitalism needs to die, and whatever replaces it, sure, we'll do that, and then we do something different. But like you're saying, all right, we have to organize in this way to like, because so society can like, be organized around these concepts, and that might be good. But it's like I don't see how we get from where we are right now to where we need to go, and that's the problem. We've got these like things like surveillance capitalism. You've got corporations and people that have ungodly amounts of money, and they're not going to give up the power. They're not going to give up the power. And you say you can encourage it. People in the rat race will get jealous when they see communities living well without corporate masters. Yes, and you want to know what happens when that happens a lot of times? They get shot. I mean, it's like, do you think the corporate masters are going to give up power? And do you think like it's going to be obvious? Like it's very hard to like you're not in the US, I know that. But basically the people who are in certain states think the people who live in other states are living in hellholes. And like the media portrays like say living in LA like it's a hellhole, or living in New York is a hellhole. and they think that you come to New York and you're going to get shot. There were 2 murders in the city the other day. 2 fucking murders in terms of 15 million people. Like, you're not actually gonna get shot, but that's the thing. But people are afraid of New York because, again, you can't the media is controlled too. I don't think you have enough faith in PR people. They can spin PR. I mean, how long did it take us to get rid of smoking? This is a social problem. We couldn't get people to wear masks. Saving people's lives does not matter. They got for whatever reason, you couldn't get people to wear masks. And people in other countries, certain Asian countries, they were happy to wear masks because hey, if you have a cough, don't cough on other people because you're sick and you'll make them sick. We couldn't even get people to do that here. That's fair. Megalomorph, welcome in. You don't have to like New York. You do not have to like New Yorkers. That's okay. And of course, you may have been around some of the wrong New Yorkers, but that's and there's a lot of us. Yeah, it's the problems of changing society are not technological ones. They're social ones. That's why you need social science, you need history, you need philosophy. It's hard to change people on those on that level. It's the only solution you can think of without a violent revolution, and no one has any suggestion for what happens after a revolution. I completely agree with that. I don't have any good solution, and I don't know how a lot of people aren't going to die. And I hate any solution where lots of people are going to die, because it's never the people that deserve to die that die in these things. It's and I'm not even saying anyone deserves to die, but I can guarantee you the people that die are always going to be the poor and the ones that had no choice in the matter. And that's how it's always been. And, yeah, I'm not saying anyone deserves to die. I'm just saying I can guarantee you the people that die the most are the ones that have they only had their lives. They didn't have anything else. So, yeah, depends. Like I said, depends who you're dealing with in New York. It's an interplay between the two. Tech creates opportunities, and that's where social science comes into play. Nuclear bomb or power plant. Yeah, exactly. Who's controlling it? What's it for? And so it's this is why I don't like putting everything into the hands of the tech people, because they do not have the experience with the social science stuff. Megalomorph says, I saw a video of someone running into a kebab shop and coughing all over the rotisserie just to be jackasses. People in the U.S. are just, you can't tell me how to wear a mask there. I'm going to make your life worse just because I can. Yeah, that definitely happens. Thankfully, we're sort of fighting a back against that. People are, getting into more trouble when they start coughing on stuff nowadays. But, yeah, there's a lot of assholes in the United States. Just terrible assholes who think they know better than everyone else and don't want to listen to reason. But people never did listen to reason. That's not how things happen. As well as saying earlier about rhetoric. In the paper we were talking about, it's how do you actually criticize people and get them to listen to you? That is a problem of rhetoric. And no one teaches rhetoric anymore. How do you actually become a good rhetorician or rhetor or whatever it is? We don't even use the word anymore, what it is to be able to convince people well of your positions. People might not have listened to reason, but the most unreasonable were kept in line. Yeah, and so this is sort of the fraying of the current old order. I'm not even saying society. It's just the way things were at the moment, or in the past, are not how they are anymore. And so we can't actually keep things that are going wrong in line anymore. And that's becoming more obvious with, some of the problems in society. I mean, just things have gotten more and more exacerbated, and so more and more problems are showing up, and it's a general state of breakdown that has just, I think, increased in the last bit, because we do not have whatever the controls were in the past are no longer working as they used to. So